Yo, this changes everything. The Warriors just got Steph Curry back on the court in what Steve Kerr called the most important game of the season. Jimmy Butler decided to show up in the second half, and Jonathan Kuminga shocks Warriors fans. And in today's video, I'll break down what you might have missed in the Warriors win over the Pelicans tonight and the implications it all has on the Warriors' playoff hopes. Welcome to Warriors Digest. I'm Arthur Ballesteros, and I need you to do me a favor. Hit subscribe right now. Less than 30% of you who watch regularly are subscribed. What are you doing? We bring you the most up-to-date Warriors news, commentary, analysis that you can find anywhere on YouTube. So just hit subscribe. Be a part of the growing Warriors community because it totally helps us out. We just crossed the 10,000 mark. You want to be a part of the fandom here. And what a way to come into the community on a win. The Warriors stopped the two-game losing streak with a 111-95 win over the Pelicans tonight. It was pretty dicey there for like an entire first half here. And let's get into it here. Let's break it all down. It all started off with this starting lineup here. Let me bring this up. This was your starting five for the night. Steph Curry back after the pelvis injury. He was back on the court. You had Brandin Podziemski starting at the 2 there. Jimmy Butler at 3, and Moses Moody starting at the 4, power forward, and Draymond Green at center. Another small lineup, another slow start. The Warriors got off to a 7-0 deficit against the Pelicans early. They just looked so flat early on. It was really embarrassing to watch. I started getting really nervous. We were going to have a repeat here, but they started to right the ship. I mean, this is the reason why Steph Curry is so important to this team. Just look at this. 6th in offense with Curry in the lineup when he's not 30th in offense. So this is why it was so important to get him back tonight. And it was a rough go for a while here. I mean, when you look at the way this game went, the whole first half, you were just like, when are the Warriors going to show up? There were some pretty crazy stats here. I mean, in the first quarter, the Warriors started off 0 of 10 from 3. They just could not hit a three-point shot. The starters were just having so much trouble getting into the flow of the game. Jimmy Butler looked lost. Like he didn't even want to be there for the first half there. It was really odd to see. And I'm starting to see him disappear a lot. Thankfully, he turned it around in the second quarter or the second half. But as you see here in the team stats, the Warriors, again, the theme of the past several games has been they can't hit open threes. They can't hit any threes. I mean, they shot 23% from behind the arc tonight. Just an abysmal shooting night here. I mean, this was just hard to watch for a long time. You were getting a ton of open threes. You had Jimmy who couldn't knock down an open three. He was getting open looks in the corner there. Quinten Post, I know, missed a number. Brandin Podziemski was missing them. Steph Curry was the only Warriors starter who hit a 3 in that first quarter. And it was rough. But when we look at the box score, though, this doesn't tell the entire picture of the game. Because as you see, like Jimmy Butler looks like he ended up having a really good night, 18 points. He was +7 in the plus or minus column, ended up with 10 rebounds. But like I said, in the first half, he had just completely disappeared. I think he was like -15 in the plus or minus for the first half there, just not doing anything for the Warriors, who desperately needed somebody other than Steph to contribute. But finally, Jimmy turned it around. He started getting a lot of easy looks at the basket. In the second half, he was running a lot on transition in the fast break there, and he was getting rewarded for it, hitting a bunch of easy layups, easy dunks there. So he finally got things turned around. Draymond had a lot of trouble throughout the night. He ended up fouling out of the game, but he was also somebody who was completely quiet in the first half. But he helped lead the defensive intensity in the second half, which got the Warriors back into this game. And it was way too close for way too long here. But again, the story here, the bench really leading the way. And the real story of the night, Jonathan Kuminga, after an entire week of just being absolutely criticized for his really rough transition here, coming back from this ankle injury, just getting slaughtered and slandered everywhere online. Everything from his shot selection, basketball IQ, doesn't pass, can't rebound, just everything you could say bad about Jonathan Kuminga. It was being echoed all throughout every conversation about Warriors basketball. And there was a real sentiment that was shifting where a lot of people were like, why were we even excited that he was coming back? But he finally showed the flashes, the brilliance that we all love him for. And this is, I get what you get. It's streaky right now. I mean, you have to remember he's only 22, but he was really the story of the night for me. He came in, scored 16 off the bench. He had 7 rebounds, but he was so active and energetic, leading the fast breaks, playing defensive intensely. He was just stellar when you watched what was going on. There were a number of times when he was just absolutely relentless in his defense, which has been one of the biggest knocks on him. And the other big knock is like, why can't he rebound the ball? He really showed it must have been something that happened here. Maybe he's listening to a lot of the chatter going on. Maybe Steve Kerr got to him, but somebody really motivated him to actually crash the boards and get some rebounds, and he actually did. 7 may not seem like a lot, but I mean, for a guy who statistically, he's only getting about a rebound every 5 minutes that he plays. He only played 23 minutes tonight, but was able to snag 7 rebounds. Just a great job turning it around, and this is what good players on good teams do. They turn it around. They make changes to their game, and they were showing at least a little bit of a glimmer of hope. This is what we're going to need for the playoffs here, is Jonathan Kuminga getting into gear. But it wasn't just, I mean, the Warriors would not have been in this position to win this game and hadn't kept it close in the first half if it wasn't for Guy Santos again. He is the unheralded, like, mini MVP of the team this season here. He came off the bench and just ignited a run during the first quarter and in the second quarter that really helped the Warriors to stay close, and just, again, that energy. They're going to be really missing that, not having Gary Payton, who's going to be out for a little while here with that ligament injury in his thumb. So Guy really stepped up. Great to see. Kuminga really stepped up. Buddy Hield had a pretty decent game as well. He was only 2 of 6 from 3, but he did have 11 points. He was also showing some flashes of defense, which we don't ever really get to see from him. But the story of the game here really was a tale of 2 halves. As you see in the game flow here, New Orleans just dominated the first half, which should not have happened. It looks like the Warriors came out flat-footed again. And, when you start to wonder about, I know there was a lot of chatter about them spending too much time in Miami. And did anybody else see Brandin Podziemski tonight? He clearly had a sunburn. He was spending too much time on the beach in Miami, apparently, but just a slow start. But the Warriors did what they were supposed to do. They turned it around and really built a solid lead in the second half that they were able to hang on to, thankfully, although it did continue to get way too close there. Now, where does that put the Warriors in the standings here? So they got the win tonight. The problem is the Clippers won tonight. Minnesota wins tonight, so they don't gain any ground. They still remain only a half game up on the Timberwolves, and they're tied with the Clippers. But the Clippers have the tiebreaker for the season, so they're going to get that spot if the season were to end today. The Warriors would still have to fight in that play-in. Warriors and Clippers, going to be a huge game. Last game of the season probably is going to determine who gets into the play-in game and who doesn't. So lots to look forward to there as the season starts to shake out. And then as we look at the upcoming schedule here, so on Sunday, we're going to play a bad San Antonio team. Should be a win. Last video, I said I was going to stop saying that these should be wins because they just weren't instilling any faith that they could, win against beatable teams. But they showed some flashes tonight. So hopefully should be a win against San Antonio. It's going to be a really tough game against Memphis, who, by the way, fired their coach today. Turmoil all over in Memphis. Apparently lots of clashes with the team in the locker room, just not gelling. He was on a short leash already, so gets fired. So hopefully that's going to, create a little bit of wiggle room for them to continue to fall in the standings. The Warriors hopefully try to move up there. And then you've got the Lakers. Then you come back home to play the Nuggets in a huge game with Jokic back and healthy. Obviously, the Warriors lost to the Nuggets last time they played without Jokic, without Jamal Murray. It's going to be a lot harder to get that win this time. And then you got the Rockets at home. And then you go on the road against Phoenix, and then another game against San Antonio. And then you've got Portland. These are just some of the upcoming games. Only 9 left in the season. 9 games left. This is getting a little bit too exciting for me as they're making this really close here. But I think a lot of keys that you saw in this game tonight were that the Warriors have to commit to starting Quinten Post at center. No more small lineups. They always get off to a slow start when they run these smaller lineups out there. Just commit to Post. Just get him out there. Give him the minutes that he deserves. And let's see. I know he has some problems on defense. I know he's not your lockdown, paint, low block defender that you want, but he's shown some flashes. He does get into foul trouble a lot. But look, it's not working with the small lineup right now. So let's try something else. I know we've tried it with him a little bit here, but let's try it again. Let's try to get some size. The Warriors clearly are having a lot of problems in the paint. Let's try something different here again with a new starting lineup because this one is just not working. Also, another key is Jimmy has to also show up and pretend like he's interested in the first half of the game. Seems like a lot of the vets tonight were really kind of taking the night off at first. It can't happen. Can't happen at this point. When you're on a 2-game skid, losing to bad teams, and then you show up really lackadaisical, missing shots, not making the right passes, making boneheaded plays and a lot of turnovers. Just can't happen. Luckily, he did turn it on in the second half, but a lot of those points that he was getting were in transition. So it's not like he's knocking down open mid-range shots like he should be doing, but still efficiently, at least hitting on his layups and dunks when he's getting open looks there. But this is, some hope. The Warriors might be back. Steph Curry is back at least, and clearly we just see how he changes everything. The floor spacing was just so different. It is an entirely different team with him out there. You just see the way that the floor completely opens up. You get a lot of guys who get open for looks here because there's a double team on Steph. The problem here now is that guy who is open has to knock down the open shots. This is a problem here. The Warriors cannot hit threes outside of Steph Curry right now. And this just can't happen. This is not how you're going to win in the playoffs. Somebody else has to step up and consistently hit those shots. We still don't know who's going to be the one doing that, but we'll see. This gave us a lot of hope. Even though it was against a bad 20-win Pelicans team, this was the hope we needed. So let me know your thoughts on the game. Is JK, Jonathan Kuminga, is he your MVP for the game? Does Steph Curry coming back, does this completely change things? Were we overreacting during the Warriors' last 2 losses? And do they have the hope of staying out of the play-in game? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Peace.